Willie, where are you health-wise going into the Big 12 schedule?
Oh, we're banged up a little bit. We've had some injuries. I think we've had 7 ACLs since the beginning of camp, and I guess that would be including the summer. Unfortunately, Torin is injured, and he's gonna be out the rest of the season. And he was doing a great job for us. He's both an outside linebacker, and he's really, really steady in the kicking game, and just a tremendous leader for us. So we've got some guys hurt, and it's unfortunate. It's the only part I don't like about football. But he's the only one that's added, from before the game.
He's also.
Yeah, Caden was from a couple weeks ago, but he's also out for the season as well. Yeah.
Do you expect to also get Kobe back anytime soon, or is that?
Kobe's going to be out for the season also. His was a toe. That first injury I've had like that is. So he had surgery the other day, and he could be back maybe in 8 or 9 weeks, but essentially he's going to be out for the season.
Well, when you're at the quarter mark of the season now, how do you evaluate? Are you sort of like non-conference, conference, postseason type? Or
yeah, we're just we told the guys today, just what you said. 25% of the season's done, over. We've got to do a great job of compartmentalizing each and every week into its own season. Every game's a big game. I always talk about in-season heroes. Some guys are better in February than they are in September. And this is when you really need their best effort, and energy, and mental focus, and all those kind of things. So, and the other big part too is getting into Big 12 play. It's another big deal for us. And now we're going to be playing. Everybody we play from here on out is going to be a Big 12 member.
At the beginning of the year, where you talked about the depth chart and how fluid it would be, was this the point of the season you were looking at?
We pretty much know right now. We've got enough information on everybody that we know who's playing where and how much. Now that can change. Some guys get better as the season progresses, and you change how many reps they get. But there's some guys that are kind of won a position that was maybe up for grabs.
Coach, what's been the biggest keys to the defensive success the past couple of weeks?
Well, I think Shieldwood, our defensive coordinator, and the defensive staff, Josh Christian Young, James Ross, Zach Etheridge, Oscar Giles, and then all the other guys, the analysts that work extremely hard on that side of the ball, the graduate assistants on that side of the ball. I think they do a phenomenal job of putting together a great game plan, and then we're also good, I think, at the fundamentals, tackling, leverage, having a good stance, good alignment, vertically, horizontally, being 100% focused on your key every single snap. I just think those guys do a very good job of teaching the basics, but we're also multiple enough where we do a lot of stuff. It's complex stuff, and I think what Shield did an excellent job of from spring football all the way to this point right now is installation of what we're doing. So you don't overwhelm guys. He had a plan with how you put things in. Some guys just throw it up against the wall and see what sticks, and it's usually too much. And you get good at nothing. We worked on things for, weeks at a time, and then we installed some other things. And by the time we got to May, we had probably 80% of our defense in. By the time we got to August, preseason camp, we had close to 100% of it in. Then you tweak some things, each week based on who you're going to play. You add some things, you subtract some things, but I think he's done an excellent job of that.
Well, you were much more efficient running the ball on first down. What do you attribute that to?
I think we got bodies on bodies, and didn't allow penetration. And if one guy out of those 5 guys on the offensive line is not doing what he's supposed to do, you really, that's when you're going to have minus plays. And like I've said many times before, you guys fighting over that right there. If one guy's wrong, now it's 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13, and you got problems. 2nd and 8 is not a bad down and distance. It really isn't. And we just did a good job of getting bodies on bodies. There's some times where the back wants to hit it up in there. There's some times where, we talk about slow to it, fast through it as far as the hole is concerned, so you can read and see what's going on. But, I just thought we did a good job. And then also, Malik Carr, he has improved big time blocking. He's always been a great receiver, but I grabbed him this morning and told him, "Hey man, that was a great job blocking on the perimeter, blocking. When you're in the core, we got to have that. And Jaden York, he probably didn't get enough credit for all the great job he does blocking. And it also is the receivers. You saw, Stacy with his first touchdown. Manjack allowed that. Instead of it being a 30-yard gain, it was a 65-yard touchdown, because of him giving that extra effort and understanding the leverage and staying with it and all those kind of things. So that was the big key to the success last week running the football.
You've said before that Monday is part of the recovery process. What do you mean by that?
Well, we take Sundays off, and all the guys come in, and I've mentioned it before. I've always done Sunday off, and I think it's good for those guys just to get away, let the coaches, submerge themselves into the game plan, and then Monday, we start moving around. So we're in the training room on Sunday, and now on Monday, we don't go real hard on Monday. We only go an hour, okay, and we review and correct, what we did wrong on Saturday's game. We do some things situationally in the kicking game, offense, defense, and then we start installing and looking at base fronts, coverages, blitzes, for the offense, looking at, formations, personnel groupings, what's their base run game, what's their base pass game with the defense, and, kind of turn the page. But you got to get moving around. That's part of the recovery, getting where you're, maybe you feel like, oh man, I don't know how hard I'm going to be able to go. And by the end of practice, they're fine and ready to practice on Tuesday full speed.
We'll be back on the running game. Jaron Bernett, the work he's gotten there, he's at 2 games now. Is he a guy that you moving forward? Do you look at that 4 game?
He did a great job. He really, he's a big dude. He's 230, 235, runs with power, had a couple nice cuts. He's learning every day. And what we do is because of the time, we don't have the time constraints like you have in high school. It's complex, and he's learning every single day. And we can't just have him in there when he's running the ball. It's kind of a key. So he does a good job with pass pro. He's getting better with running routes and then running all the parts of the run game. So his football IQ has expanded dramatically over the last couple months.
Speaking of big dudes, can you kind of tell us a little bit about Carlos Allen, what you've seen from him and just his role there?
He's done a great job for us. He's probably 6 foot. I don't know what he is, but he's got long arms. Great. He reminds me a little bit of this kid that played for me, Tulane, Tanzel Smart. I think he's still with the Jets possibly, but he just locks out on people and doesn't stay engaged very long. And he can do what we call it, 2 gap. He has a primary gap. If the ball's being run to a secondary gap, he can go ahead and, destruct the blocker and get over to that gap. He just, and he plays hard. That's the other part. It's not something that everybody does. He plays extremely hard.
The 2 kicks, was that a holding issue? Or
one was a holding issue and one was a little bit of a snap issue, but we still got to make them. Whenever you get, especially on a short field goal or a short extra point, if the ball isn't put down there immediately, you do what you call a 1 step. and you stop there and you wait till it gets it down, you one step it. We didn't do a good job of that, and then we had a little bit of a low snap, but it got up there, and we need to have better snap. We need to execute the hold. We need to execute the kick. So that's on those guys. We got to get better at that, and that's got to be automatic every single time we're going.
Just from a personnel standpoint, is the interpretation that Gaston won't be available in the first half?
Correct.
Right? You feel like the secondary is one of your deepest areas.
We got some depth there, but Jawan is a guy that can play a lot of spots, and so he's very valuable to us. He can play the third level, strong safety, free safety, and then he also can play that anchor position. And he had an interception. Unfortunately, got called back by a late hit on the quarterback, and then so it just we want to make this game as safe as we can, and we just got to understand that the strike zone. We always talk about armpits and below, and then we got to keep our eyes up and do a good job with we talked a little bit about it last week, rugby tackling, and we don't want to lose anybody, but we also don't want anybody hitting anyone with the crown of their helmet, and that doesn't. Some people think the crown of their helmet only applies to helmet. That's any part of the body when you got a defenseless runner. So, and that's how they interpreted that play, that he was a defenseless runner.
You've had critical penalties at bad times. I know you've stressed that since you've been here, but how do you correct that in the season?
I'm like a broken record. We talked about it this morning for a long time. I talk about it in our meetings. We show low light films of guys making mistakes. That's part of building a culture, is playing smart. We got to do a better job of that, without question. We talked about post play penalties. We talk about Cougs don't beat the Cougs, and unfortunately these guys watch TV and they want to yap and talk and do all that kind of stuff, and that ends up affecting all of us when they get that penalty. Plus, I don't want to play that way. That's not how I want our team to be viewed. That we're doing a bunch of this kind of crap, and so we got to do a better job of playing smart. And it really gets you in the kicking game. It's where it really gets you. We had a few weeks back where we had a call and it was really a 60-yard penalty. It wasn't a 10-yard penalty. So we got to play smarter. And I told them I've had some teams where I was able to roll the ball out and we were going to win. We're just better than the other teams we play talent-wise. That's not going to be the case. We got to have every edge that we can possibly have in order to win.
Jaylen Garner had a quietly nice game.
Yeah, he did.
What are you seeing from him?
He's getting better every week also. Kendrick Gant was injured and wasn't able to play. And so Jaylen got his number called and played a lot more, had the big interception, to return down the 1 yard line, had a bunch of really nice open field tackles. He's playing solid for us in the kicking game. So he's getting better and improving, and he's earned the right to be in the rotation with the linebackers.
Willie, you hit on this at the beginning, but given you guys win this past week, we're very competitive at Oklahoma. What do you tell the guys moving forward for Big 12 play? Do you kind of say, hey, we've done what we've done now. Let's look at the next picture.
This is conference play. That's a big deal, number one. But it's just getting better every single day. It's turning the page. The 24-hour rule applied this week too, just like it did the previous 2 weeks, and that's something that we got to understand. We got to work smarter, harder, longer, everything this week in order to have the results that we want to have. And we got a great opponent this week. Cincinnati's outstanding. I played him some when I was at my previous spot, and they'll have a great crowd, and they just came off a big win, and they had a tough one 2 weeks before that against Pitt. So it's going to be a heck of a challenge for us.
11 a.m. road game. Do you change much for that?
Not too much. I really feel like it's an advantage for us because we go in the morning. These guys are going to be able to sleep in for this game. We're up at 5:30 every morning. So they're going to get a couple extra hours sleep. So, I love these games at this time. It's going to be noon on East Coast time, but we'll fly out really the same time schedule as far as Friday and everything that we do Friday, but Saturday will be a little bit different because we won't have that opportunity to meet as long and different things like that, and you'll really only have a pregame meal instead of a couple of them. So, I like these games for how we're set up. It's good. If I was an afternoon or a later practice team, I probably wouldn't like it.
Willie, the before and after practice, where the players shake hands and stuff, was it that study that you saw, I think the NBA Finals one year, or can you kind of go into the reasoning behind that?
I was reading something about the Miami Heat. They played the Dallas Mavericks in the finals of the NBA championship, and hopefully I get this all correct. This was quite a few years ago, but it talked about how the Mavericks had physical interaction with their teammates like an 8-to-1 rate that the Heat did, and and the Heat saw that, and they ended up changing that and emphasizing that as well, and they won the championship, I believe, the next year, and that just resonated with me, that it's not just good enough to talk the talk, you gotta feel it too, and so we practice being a good teammate, and part of that is dapping each other up and saying an encouraging word to each person out there, and I think it's undertaught. It's nowadays it's how can I dog the opponent rather than how can I pump the tires of my teammate, and I don't know where we got lost in that, but somewhere we did, and so we want to pump our teammates' tires and be a good teammate. One of the things we do on Friday nights is we have a Mission Cougs. We talk about just different things and how these guys can make that transition in a positive manner from 18 to 22 years of age. And Coach Sherman leads this for us, and he does an excellent job with it. But you bring somebody up, and we have everybody, guys say comments about the guy, and it's really neat to hear the things they say about guys. Last week it was Noah Guzman, and I think he helped about half the guys in the room move, from one place to another. He drove over and he helped them pack and moved, and he was like the first guy everybody thought of to call and ask because that's the kind of guy he is, but you want to have a room full of those guys, not just 10, 20. You want to have 80 guys like that.
Thanks so much, Coach.
Pretty good. Thank you all.